Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Back in the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Curtis Seabolt here. Soren Petro was stepped aside for a while. We will soon return. 2-minute drill coming up at 4 o'clock. Need to know at 5 o'clock. And the great Kevin Harlan, the voice of America, at 5:20. We'll wrap things up with the kicker.
Soren just couldn't stand to speak with me on this Friday, apparently.
He's like, Danny? Danny's going to be on the radio? I'm not talking to Danny. There's no way. Forget it. I'm out. So,
well, apparently he'll have to summon up his courage here for a few minutes, and then we will get to the point where we can speak. But it's always a pleasure to speak with you, Curtis. So,
what's new this week in Danny's world?
Well, there's certainly a lot in Danny's world, but
that's you feel like talking about.
Well, I feel like talking about anything that you feel like talking about. I'll do a little free plug here for the Reasonably Irreverent podcast today. On Fridays, of course, the Kansas City Profile is always sponsored by Easton Roofing, and today is Frank Hicks, the owner of Knuckleheads.
Ah, one of your all-time favorite establishments?
Yeah, and just a fascinating story of something that sort of just grew organically into one of Kansas City's great music venues, and we hope to be getting back there soon. And, you know, it's a slow process, to say the least. They've been doing some limited stuff over there, but I think the reflection of our times a little bit in this world is the fact that my wife and I had tickets to go see the Mavericks last
Your favorite band, current band?
Favorite band to see as a live act.
Yeah.
It's a great party.
And that's a great venue for that type of band.
Fantastic. Anyway,
kind of intimate.
It was scheduled for May. Then it was rescheduled for September. Now it's rescheduled for May again. And it's probably a maybe at this point in time. So anyway, that's a really fun, fascinating discussion from somebody who basically took what was sort of an auto body shop area and turned it into 4 music venues. They have 4 venues there. So anyway, that's a lot of fun.
The city has always had, for a small town, has always had a lot of I guess what you call iconic music venues. I was just talking to someone last night, and they brought up, I noticed that their Twitter avatar was the cow smoking a cigarette from the old Cowtown Ballroom at 31st and Gillum, and that was in the early 70s. That was the place. I mean, it was for 3 or 4 years, but for a small town, there have been a lot of iconic music places, and certainly Knuckleheads is one of those places right now.
Right, and Knuckleheads sort of went from being a place where local musicians and people like that went more national when the Grand Emporium closed.
Yeah.
So they basically took a lot of the acts that used to go to the Grand Emporium and started having them there. And so it's a fun discussion.
Cool. I'll check it out.
So today was one of those days. I was going to say to Serena, usually says, how you doing? And I think today we experienced, at least I experienced, a fake nice day. You know, it's been so cold. It's been so cold that, you know, it's warmer today.
Yeah.
But
it's 34
when
right
I
now.
stepped outside, I got hit in the face with the wind, and I'm like, oh, first of all, I thought it was going to be a little warmer. It is nice and sunny, but that didn't feel good.
No.
You know, it felt a lot better than 4 below, but I guess I was expecting sort of 40 and calm.
This is one of those days it looks warmer outside than it is.
Yes. No,
the sun definitely makes it better. So,
not Arizona, like where the Royals
speaking of hoping to look warmer than it has been, the Royals, and one of the topics we discussed this past hour was, on Wednesday we discussed, you know, what does this season, to be a successful season, describe what has to happen. And my thought was, I think they have to have not just improvement to the viewing eye, which you can sometimes see without wins or losses, but actual improvement in the standings, and have the vast majority of that improvement come from players on which this team will depend upon in the years to come.
Right. I agree with that. If Carlos
what's
Santana
your view
has
of
a
that?
monster year and nobody else plays well who's young, that wouldn't, it'd be nice. I mean, I like Carlos Santana. I'm happy he's here. And I do feel like he'll bounce back from last year. I think Soren sort of took this the wrong way when Santana was acquired. I think that Santana was hurt more by a short season because he's a really streaky player because he walks so much that if, you don't get your hit or two that night, you can go quite a while without getting any hits, and his batting average, and then he'll get just piping hot. So he may have just not had the stretch of games where he was going to get hot. He didn't have enough games. Right. So maybe he had 2 cold streaks and 1 hot streak, and that wasn't quite enough. So, I agree with that assessment. I think the Royals are going to be in a position where you want them to win some games. I mean, a real successful season for them would be to be playing at least reasonably borderline meaningful baseball in the early part of September. And really all you have to do to kind of be doing that is play around 500. Now, that certainly is a step forward for this team. But I think they're capable of that, possibly. But I think if they go out and do what the over-unders are saying, or many experts are saying, and go 72 and 90, I don't think that's a successful season. I don't.
Yeah, and I don't think you can, even if the young players come forward and you show some improvement, if it doesn't result in more wins, I don't think you can see much.
Well, I don't think they can.
It's better than going 72 and having everyone be terrible. But
I don't think they can have enough significant improvement and go 72 and 90.
Right. So, someone earlier said that a caller we had earlier thought, if they play better and they fall to 58 and 104, I'm like, I don't think you can. It's hard to play well inside of a 58 and 104 season.
No, I think the fans have gotten far too used to the fact that you can lose 100 games. I mean, bad baseball teams still don't lose 100 games.
No.
I mean, losing 100 games is a real feat.
Yeah.
And maybe because we've seen teams tank a little bit more recently. We've seen more maybe 100-loss seasons than we used to. I mean, 95 losses is bad baseball. There's no question about that. But I don't think – I'd be really shocked if I was forced to spend $1,000 of my own money. I would absolutely pick the over on the Royals. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen 70, 72, and then I think it was a Fangraphs that said 78 or 79. So I tend to lean toward.
Now, Fangraphs, that might not, I wouldn't spend $1,000 of my own money on an over-under of 78.
On 78, no. 75, 76. What you mentioned, Santana. We've kind of gotten used to when the Royals acquire players like Michael Taylor. You look, and invariably the last year they played was like their low water mark. There's a lot of guys that have 260, 270 guys. You see, 199 last year. That's why he was available. But at least with Santana, yes, at 199. He led the league in walks, so that he at least brings one tool that even in his down year, he still found a way to get on base. His on base is 350.
And it says something for a player who is hitting at that level that they can still draw their walks. That shows that it's just real great plate discipline, which he has, because, there still is the fear factor from the past. If they know, they're not terrified of him when he's hitting 199. So, and he threw in some power, and 8 home runs and 208 at bats is not bad. And I do expect him to bounce back. I'd be surprised if he had a season that was commensurate with what he did last year.
By the way, thank you very much for helping out, Danny. Danny Unleashed, brought to you by Easton Roofing. That escalated in a big hurry. I don't know what you said about why I wasn't
said nothing.
There,
we said nothing.
Stepped away and be back soon.
Yeah, you stepped away.
Okay,
you two stepped away.
I went to get a water, and I'm like, you know what? Wow. And then I was like, ooh, I don't think that's going to wait till 6. And I was like, I came back, I got the headset. I'm like, Jed, you got to be ready to go to break early. Like, you might have to pad the next break. Tell Curtis to be ready. I'm like, nope, never mind. I'm gone.
Tell Curtis to take it. I got to go.
Curtis to take it.
I think my dad has many old-timey phrases that I like to toss out every now and then just for fun and games.
Right.
And I think his description of what you perhaps suffered through might be appropriate here. He used to call a certain malady that may have inflicted you as the green apple quick step.
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, well. Yeah, there was like I went through the stages that usually you would feel over the course of maybe an hour, all in about 4 minutes.
That's better.
Nope. We're here. Yep. Gotta go.
Now you're good. Now you're good to go.
Yeah. I'm hoping. Like I always, when that happens, though, I'm always like, oh God,
Where's
is
the
it food
second
poisoning?
wave?
Am I gonna be puking next? Like I had tuna for lunch. Like they get some bad tuna. What's going on here?
It sat in the back seat of the car for a week, but it seemed like it was okay. It was in the back window of a 72 Cutlass.
I am so careful about that because I've never had the flu, but I have had food poisoning on a few occasions, which people have told me is somewhat akin to the flu, except it's short term. And the last time I had it was in England, and that's a long time ago now, about 7 years. And I am like, if I sense that anything is even close to untoward, I am throwing it in the trash because I don't want to feel that way.
Not taking
well,
chances.
Lebo's the exact opposite. Lebo pushes the window and brags about the fact that I have some 2-week-old chicken. Like, I don't know, man.
I don't think it's worth it. It's not worth it.
Nothing goes 7 days in my world. Like, that's just all there is to it. Anyway, so I digress.
Jerry Seinfeld does a fun bit about how they know when the milk is supposed to expire. What did they, talk to the cow? And then they have that exact day on it, and then you're terrified on that day, or should I extend it by 1 day? And it's a very funny bit.
Yeah. Danny, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. You can find them online at eastonroofing.com or call 913-257-5426 right now, offering 10% off on roofings, attic insulation, guttering, re-roofing, roof repairs, 10% off up to $500 right now at Easton Roofing. Book right now at eastonroofing.com. You can get it all done right there. Of course, inspections are always free. Estimates, they're free as well. Easton Roofing online at eastonroofing.com. You were talking about, and I did want to talk to you, we posed the question. Curtis, did you just hit him with the question about what makes those signings a success?
No, I initially hit him with the what makes the season a success and was working my way towards that.
Okay. What development, or is there a win total you need to see this year, Danny?
I think they need to be above the projections that we're seeing for over-unders. I'm not going to be satisfied with any 72 and 90. Because I don't think you can get the individual improvement that you want to get, and not get more wins than that. So right. I think if they went 72 and 90 or 70 and 92 or something like that, I don't think we'd see what we want to see from individuals. I guess it's possible. I guess there could be, the bullpen could be absolutely disastrous, and other things could be pretty good, and that's about the only way I can, and they toss away 7 or 8 games. That's about the only way I can see where you could get some steps forward from some position players, and the young starting pitching starting to really come forward, and maybe a couple of the guys who haven't hit the majors yet got their feet wet and did it effectively. That's about the only way I could see that happen. But in general, I want to see close to, they don't have to hit 500, but I want them to be, in that ballpark.
You want them to scare it.
Yeah, I want them to scare it, or I want them to be scaring it much of the way,
Yeah.
So
I don't see a 24-5, in the last month that gets them to, 77 wins. Right? Like I don't see some finish like that. I mean, I would take it like 77 wins. Like that's what I'm kind of feeling. USA Today projected him for 71.6 or something, like 72 wins.
Right.
Pacoda has him for 72 wins. Fangraphs has him for, was it 78 or 79, Curtis?
I think it was 78.
78, I think. 78 wins. That's kind of what I'm feeling, the 78 wins. And Curtis is right. I think we all want to see it be because of the young players. I'm curious as I'm looking at the team, and I – it's all kind of, you're refreshing your memory about where you are with everybody's contract and everything. And they got lots of guys that they control. Hunter Dozier they control for 2 years. Obviously, Singer they control for 5 more years. So it's not like God, they're not going to have a team in 3 years. But there's a lot of guys like Sal Perez, last year of his deal. Whit Merrifield has 1 more plus an option, which if he's hitting, they would exercise. But I think you'd have a pissed off Whit. I think next year when his deal is 3 and change, when it goes down more than 50%, he's going to be expecting a new deal. And so you're going to have to figure it out. I still wonder, and I just wanted to bring it up early, did they miss the boat? And we're gonna see this team not be able to get back to a championship level. That maybe it gets back to 83, 84 wins. Maybe they even grab a playoff spot with a kind of a weak 87, 88 wins, with the runs in the right places, and then whimper out. But are we going to be going? You know what? The problem is that they didn't get enough talent for assets that they had, and Duffy and Perez and Witt, and if we cycle through those guys. And this team is, gets nothing for them. And they're not in the playoffs in 21, 22, 23. And they're like, well, we need a couple of spots here and there. It's like, yeah, you could have had those had you moved those guys back into 18, back in 17. You could have had good core young players that were coming up. And that's the thing that I'm constantly amazed. I get it with fans. Fans don't have to invest long term. But, any business knows, like sometimes, like Texas, here's an idea. Well, we have no income tax. We're privatizing our power grid. And look at this. Yeah, and now you're all freezing your ass off with busted pipes over your heads because you didn't invest a little bit to make sure that things work. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like that was the Royals. Oh, we're not going to tank. We're not going to invest fully in our future. We're going to half-ass it.
Well, I think
we're going to try to prop it up for a mediocre season, which failed miserably because they lost 100 games in back-to-back years. So I don't want to hear that they're coming up just short, or that at 82 wins in a couple of years they're talking about, now we're moving Singer, before he's busted at, before he's too expensive to keep. Like that's what's going to really piss me off is the pitching's coming, and I don't know that I see the hitting.
Well, I don't know if I see it either. And the Royals, that big-time hitting, well, big-time pitching, obviously starting pitching is super expensive, but big bats in free agency or, top of the rotation pitching and home run bats are just ridiculous. They're out of the Royals' price range as far as, free agency is concerned. So you have to develop it. And you're right. I think that, part of the problem, I think, and it's a good thing, but I was reading a quote the other day that some anonymous player, was quoted as saying, 31 general managers don't give a rip about the players, and Dayton Moore does. Well, it's nice to have a nice family feeling and everything, and I think it can be positive, but baseball can be a ruthless business too. I mean, and if you have to say goodbye to Sal Perez and the people who were going to cost them so much money that forced their hand, they didn't seem to be crying any tears about that. So you shouldn't do it about Danny Duffy and Sal Perez just because they weren't as expensive.
I got 2 questions. One, what 2 teams in baseball have 2 general managers? Because it would be 29 other teams.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you gave the football number.
Right.
No, but I think that's, the other question is, I agree. And I do think the Royals loved up their players to a World Series. I think that was part of the equation. But like Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas clearly didn't give him any kind of discount. And I still think, and I would love to get to the bottom of, why Moustakas is not a Royal. Like,
yeah,
I
think
they
just
first time this year.
I
don't get it, because he ended up being very affordable. And if you were going to put together $100+ million for Eric Hosmer, you should have been able to find 50 or 60 for Mike Moustakas.
Well, I think Moustakas got mad, and then he had to kind of come limping back. I think it was more. I think that one was on Moustakas. I think he thought he deserved the contract that, the type of contract that Hosmer was looking for and that they were willing to give. Now, in the end, somebody else outbid them. And they seem to have no interest in that whatsoever. So I guess you could say it was on both sides. But we don't know what the Royals would have offered. Were they offering Moustakas anything? I guess is the or did they just say, hey, it's between these two. We think Hosmer's the guy that brings more things other than just his on the field play, and probably they thought he had bigger upside, which really hasn't been proven out yet. It's a really interesting situation that we probably never will know the complete answer to.
I'm looking here, and I know that they wanted to bring their payroll down over the last couple of years, but Moustakas has ended up making. Where's my logged in for my? I sign in here. Hang on, let me sign in so I get the whole deal. Little fingerprint action there.
I mean, he probably in the years since he's left the Royals has made what, 65, 70 million, maybe not even.
He signed the 1-year deal with the Royals for $6.5 in 18.
Oh, so not even close.
Then in 19, 1 year, $3 million. Oh, that's a buyout. Where's the number? 7, and they bought him out of that, so he made 10 total. So 6.5, 16.5, 20. He was due 12. Whatever the prorated version ended up being of that. So let's just call it 12. I mean, let's say it was a normal year and you had a plan for it. So 28.5, and now he's on a deal that he signed 4 years. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that 12 was that last year was the first of a 4-year deal that he signed for $64 million. So 64 plus 16, $80 million for 6 years. Is what he's going to end up making. There's a $20 million option at the end of that for 24. If you'd have signed him, like I think he would have taken 4 for 60, right? Like and he's ending up getting it. Now he didn't have a very good year last year. I know. I had him on my fantasy team. And then Eric Hosmer's making his deal with the Padres 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and then in 23 it goes down to then it's player opt-outs. For 13, 13, and 13 each of the next 3 years. He can opt out or he can hang in there for the 13 going into his 33-year-old season. If you'd sign them for I personally, I think if you were trying to sign them both, they'd have been much more likely to stay. And so if you'd added $35 million a year for those two guys, how much better are you right now? How much better have the last 2 years been? Like, what positions are they still trying to fill? First and third.
No question.
And so I don't, I think that's the key. That their mistake was, I think those two guys were career Royals, and it would have been worth it to keep them, and to go through the rebuild with those two guys and Whit Merrifield and Perez. I think, I still think that was a mistake. That needed to be found, and hopefully that was a glass thing. And Sherman won't let it happen. And listen, it may have been a Dayton Moore thing that the Ian Kennedy deal killed it. And I like Ian Kennedy a lot, and I'm glad he's got tens of millions of dollars because he's a great guy. But
that was a bad deal. It was a bad deal. They misread the market badly. It was just when that market was about to crater. They jumped on him early. I mean, today a pitcher like Ian Kennedy would be lucky to get 2 years for 20.
For 20. I mean, like who just signed with the Mets?
Taijuan Walker.
Taijuan Walker got 2 for 20. Mike Minor's getting 2 for 18 or something with the Royals. Yeah, I mean that deal ended up being a bomb. But I mean I think that's the frustration there, and that's going to be my frustration if 2 years from now, Santana's gone, Benintendi's gone, Minor's gone, and you're still sitting in the 70-odd wins, because as of right now those are not long-term solutions. Sal Perez is gone.
Yeah, you're thinking. I think the thinking is that Benintendi seems like a long-term guy, but there's a lot of, in this period of time, I think there's a lot of thought that the market's going to get better down the line. I'll wait. I'll put up some numbers. I think we're going to see that in football. That a lot of people are going to sign for this season, thinking that this is an odd year with the salary cap down, and then I'll cash in the years to follow. I think we'll see some of that in baseball, too. So maybe Benintendi won't be as inclined to, say, this year or something, sign on for years down the road with the Royals.
really good position players are hard to find, and oftentimes they come with high draft picks. You had a number 2 and number 3 overall guy that you knew could hit. Like, I love Danny Duffy, and so I'm not trying to run Danny out of town, and I hope he's here. I hope he has a monster year, becomes a Cy Young winner, and I actually think he's more likely to be a great closer, to be honest with you, at this point. But I hope he has a marvelous year because we are where we are. But if you look back on it, and I think you have to do this, you have to study the history of how we got to where we are so that you don't repeat any mistakes you made along the way. If they just hoarded their money and put it into Hosmer and Moustakas instead of Duffy and Kennedy, and like they went after they paid for pitching, when in reality they hadn't paid for pitching to get to the World Series.
And the other thing that happened was that they got mediocre and then worse so fast that they didn't cash in attendance-wise on what they could have.
Yeah.
Now I was pretty surprised at how quickly the fans who built them up to, really big crowds in 15 and and 16 went away. I thought maybe there'd be a little more staying power there, but it didn't happen. And if they'd remained competitive, and then they just tank, and then you're not going to draw flies. So, there were mistakes. You don't want to. I was just saying to Curtis before while you were gone. I think fans have gotten far too used to the fact that you can lose 100 games. You're not supposed to lose 100, even if you stink.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to be pathetic.
Yeah, I agree. And now you've used all your equity. You have to win.
Right.
And that you don't get to say, well, we actually need to move this guy and move that guy. No, this is it. Like, you're expected to win with Sal Perez, Whit Merrifield, Danny Duffy, and they're coming to the end of their time here. And you invested all this money to keep them, and then said you didn't have enough money for Hosmer and Moustakas. Like, well, then you shouldn't have invested in these guys because you didn't win with these guys.
Right, and
that's
then
my only point.
That you signed a contract with Ian Kennedy, and you signed Alex Gordon, and that
yes.
was
the Gordon deal. One of the worst.
Yeah,
I mean, he was part of a World Series. The Mike Sweeney deal was way better.
No question. And even though he got hurt towards the end of that, but Gordon he might as well have been hurt. Sorry,
yeah.
I mean,
it might have been better if he was, because there was no production. And I get no one wants to say, oh, he's such a great guy. And everything. All right, and I'll say it now because I said it then. I would not be signing this deal. It's like you're buying the 30s on a guy. No. Let's take a break. I want to get into some college basketball. I also want to get into some Chiefs off-season, maybe some free agents, wide receivers, edge rushers. Where's Danny's head? 913-810-810. It is Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied, commercial and residential. And right now, offering 10% off up to $500 on any job. It's Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Find them online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
All right, the good sense, end of the hour answer. 2 Hall of Fame defensive backs have had more than 10 interceptions as a rookie. I asked for either one.
2 rookie 10 interception seasons.
Night Train Lane was one, wasn't he?
Yep. Night Train Lane has the rookie record of 14 back in 1952.
Herb Adderley?
No.
Probably something.
Ronnie Lott?
This guy had 12 in 1964 for Washington, but is not known for playing for Washington.
64 has, so it's not Pat Fisher then.
went on to play
because he was known
for a team in the NFC North.
He was known for playing in
or NFC Central, I guess. And then
Paul Krause?
Paul Krause. Had 12 and 64. Of course, he is still the career leader and will always be the career leader because nobody throws interceptions anymore. I noticed this while researching this stat. How about this? These are 10 interception seasons as a defensive player. Last 30 seasons, there have been 8.
Yeah, one was Xavier Howard this year.
This year. In the 1970s, when they hardly threw the ball, there were 9.
Wow.
The accuracy level of the sophistication of passing offenses
ridiculous
is incredible.
Well, also
compared to the 70s.
The fact that you could absolutely maul people back then.
that probably helped.
No doubt the rules, all of it has conspired to, minimize the interception, but there's no doubt.
But no one's had more than 10 since 1981. Everson Wall is the last guy to have more than 10. That was almost 40 years ago.
Wow. GoodSenseSubs.com. If you want to order some Good Sense for on your way home tonight, you can pick your time or just put in the Ace app. It's about 20 minutes if you want that. The app is the easiest way to order. It's how I do it. Get 10% back if you're part of that loyalty club. Let it build up and get free lunch. Spring for everybody for lunch. Act like a big deal when you're actually getting it for free just from the loyalty club. Or use it every single time. 10% back every single time. I see some of these things. I always like when I go someplace, I'll be like, I'm going to get this app. Let's see what their thing is. Oh, you mean like if I buy 78 meals, I can get a free Dixie cup with ice cream in it?
Sweet.
Like super. What a loyalty plan. Not that way with Good Sense. Locally owned and operated, founded in Lenexa, Kansas. That is your neighborhood Good Sense. Danny, do you have an agenda for the Chiefs in this offseason?
They're going to have to make far more moves than they did last time, and I think they probably need to either just offer up contracts that people are going to turn down for the likes of Dan Sorensen and people like that, or just walk away. But the Chiefs are a fine football team that's going to win a whole lot of football games next year. Notice how I said football. That's the way you do it in football.
You have to say football every time you say
football. You don't say ball. You don't say game. You just say football game, football free agency. Anyway, They clearly have to. So when we're talking about this, it's not like there's any kind of calamity, but certainly they have to address the tackle situation as job one. Whether it's they decide that Mitchell Schwartz decides to play more football, or they decide to eat a few months of Eric Fisher and believe that he's going to play good football again, and they have to get after the passer better. I mean, they've just proven that they can't do it without blitzing. And so that's.
So I got a list. I got a list
right.
of edge guys that I was looking at. First of all, and these are edge guys that I think fit with what fit the style of defense that they're going to play, as well as right now, of course, I'm trying to look something up. I'm trying to get these names in front of me. Here it is. Okay. Fit the style and the age. Like, I don't think the Chiefs want to sign anybody over 26. I think if you look for what they want, they always know they're willing to pay more for guys that they think are going to be healthy, and I think that's a smart move. But I also don't think they're going to have big bucks. Like Yannick Ngakoue is 25. I think they'd be interested, but he's going to be too expensive. So I don't see him going down that road. I also think he's more of like a Steelers outside linebacker type than the longer – kind of DN type that they like. Hassan Reddick is 26. Again, he's more of an outside linebacker for it. Guys that I think kind of fit the bill for what they're looking for. I will give you Trey Hendrickson from the Saints, who had a breakout year this year with 13.5 sacks. He is, 26? Just turned 26, by the way, December birthday. Romeo Okwara, how do they say it? Okwara, the guy who had 10 sacks this year for the Lions, 25 years old. I put Solomon Thomas on this list because he's 25, and he's more, I think, for the Chiefs, he would be an inside guy, but I put him down. He was listed on this list for the edge. I think he could be a possibility. I don't think there's that many guys like Shaq Barrett. They're not going after him. I mean, do you see them making a move for him?
No, the only thing that I think it just depends on the mindset of the players. Sometimes if a guy gets 13 sacks and he's in his mid-20s, he likely is thinking, well, this is payday time. I mean, I may not do this again. But if it's somebody who has a different kind of mindset, or he thinks, hey, the cap's down this year, I'm not going to get what I really want this year, like I was talking about before. If they feel like they can come in and sack 13, on a 1-year contract that's kind of fat, and replicate that, and then hit the free agent market when the cap goes back up, we think so mindset is so important. Now Shaq Barrett probably doesn't fit into that because he just got his ring and he wants to get paid. So, yes, I think in that case he probably doesn't fit. I think they just need to take advantage of a market that probably will be down a little bit, and maybe just settle for a shorter-term contract where the guy's trying to play for the future.
What about, do they shift gears and get, the 1 or 2 year deal with a guy like Ryan Kerrigan, like a veteran? Here's the problem. I think they need a really good defensive end on the opposite side. I think it's time for them to admit Frank Clark is not what they thought he was. All right? He's
Agreed.
Not a beast. And so, and I think when Chris Jones gets double-teamed, he has kind of a tendency to be like, well, I'm taking up 2 guys. I've done my job. Right? Where you really see him where you're like, oh, my God, look at this guy. He's a beast. It's when he gets single blocked, and he's like, okay, I'll take anybody one-on-one. When he gets double-teamed, you don't really see that J.J. Watt or Reggie White
yeah.
or Aaron Donald, like, oh, my God, he killed the one guy and then forced his way past the second guy. He kind of just goes, I mean, or he's just not as strong, and,
I think Tyreek Hill's like that, too.
That when he gets doubled, it's like, well, I did my job.
Yeah,
it's up to
yes.
somebody else to get it done.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I haven't noticed it with Tyreek Hill. I'll watch it, but I know how close you watch, so I'll take your word for it. But I do think that they're going to have to get another defensive lineman, or they should want to. I don't think they have to. They can go back at it the way they play because I think their back end is good. But I think there are 3 things that they really could use: a wideout, a D end, and a tackle. Because maybe Mitchell Schwartz is going to be back. Maybe Lucas Niang is going to be back. I'm not even convinced of that because, when the president says, which I appreciate honesty, when are we going to be back to normal? I'm thinking by Christmas, right? That's not what people wanted to hear, but I think it's straight talk. So if they're going to go back to camp pandemic style again, if Lucas Niang didn't play last year, why would he play this year?
Yeah, and the last I heard words from Duvernay Tardif, he might be in that same category too.
I don't even listen. I mention his name because he's a great guy, and what he's done is absolutely fantastic, and I love the guy for doing that and going out and helping people as opposed to playing football in a year that looked like they were going to win a Super Bowl. I mean, that was a guy that really sacrificed something. But I've always felt like, and I appreciate that the Chiefs will go get Chris Conley, who kind of wants to be a filmmaker. They'll go get LDT, who clearly wants to be a doctor. I mean, I remember what was his name? John Hand. It was something Hand. Wasn't that the tight end for the 49ers? It's like
John Frank.
John Frank, yeah. Who, he's like, all right, he played like 5 years. He's like, I'm out. I want to be a surgeon, and I'm not going to keep breaking fingers. Like, I'm getting out of this because what my real passion and dream is to be a surgeon. A lot of teams won't touch that guy. Like the Patriots won't touch that guy. The 49ers got a great number 2 tight end for a couple of years and said, okay, we'll go find another guy. I do appreciate that the Chiefs will take those guys, but those guys have a higher calling than football. And so I don't think LDT is going to be back. I've always kind of been of the mindset you need to be ready for him to walk every year because he's got a higher purpose in life.
Right, and he's made a lot of money, and he's going to be a doctor, so...
And you don't put in those years in school because you're kind of into it.
Right. It's hard. Playing football and going to med school, both.
Yeah. So I think they've got 3 things that they can really use. I think the 2 things that they really, really need are a D end and a tackle. Right. But I would really, really like to see them find a wideout somehow because I think they could really use that, and they're really going to need it in the years to come.
Well, this is an offensive league, and you've got a fantastic quarterback, the best there is, He's going to make guys better anyway. But you want to surround him with the very best weapons. You want to be able to go out on a bad day by your defense, still win. And the Chiefs are fully capable of doing that.
Yeah, well, they were until Super Bowl Sunday.
Right, well, yes.
I mean, because I think the defense played great for 2 quarters. And then, and I think they got screwed. I mean, you got to overcome. You got to get up and get it done. But the Mike Evans pass interference was a joke, and every either or call went against them. That just sucks. But they still, to me, they played well enough to win. And if the offense had done anything, and it didn't, and it died, and it showed that, like as you said last week, Patrick Mahomes is human. And I think that opens their eyes. So if they don't touch anything on defense, I'm fine as long as they get things done on offense. Like clear out whatever it takes to get things done on offense. All right, I want to take a break because I want to get back for some college basketball. Danny Clinkscale is with us. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. You can check out his great work at DannyClinkscale.com. Easton Roofing, both commercial and residential. They are happy to help you out. Inspections are free. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. And right now offering 10% off any project up to $500. 10% off right now. Call Easton Roofing at 913-257-5426. See him online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. We're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Clink is in the program. Danny Clinkscale from DannyClinkscale.com. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com, offering 10% off right now, up to $500 if you have got any work you need done, a re-roof, a repair to your roof, guttering, insulation. Check it out right now, eastonroofing.com, or call 913-257-5426 to set up your free inspection, free estimate. Easton Roofing, integrity matters. Danny, first of all, with the performance that K-State had, is Bruce Weber, if you're the athletic director, and then sometimes it's not in your hands. You got to find the money to buy him out, and it's a pandemic. But are you doing everything you can to make a change?
I'd be thinking about it more than Gene Taylor is. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that he's playing the freshmen and sophomores. They lead the nation in freshman and sophomore minutes. Everybody says they're young, but that's a tangible fact now. And I don't think he would be doing that to that extent if he hadn't been given some assurance that in this crazy year, just play these young kids and they're going to get an extra year of eligibility and they might be 5-year players.
Do you see this group ever becoming something by itself?
I don't right now. Antonio Gibson and Nigel Pack looks like
Nigel Pack's good.
He looks like a fine player. He's going to be a fine college player, and Gordon's showing some signs. But it's supposed to be a big and good class. So no, on the whole, it was like when I was talking about the Royals. If you were playing promising basketball individually, you wouldn't lose 13 games in a row and have scored 70 points 3 times this year. So I would be thinking about it, but I guess I'm working from the standpoint that I don't think he's going to get fired. Now, what he's done is laid the groundwork that you just can't do anything possibly close to this next year, and then it won't be acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And I think they can probably lean on the crazy year thing and the fact that K-State in football and basketball, to their credit, has basically gone out and played all their games.
4-28 in conference play the last 2 years.
No, it's bad. I mean, it's terrible.
Well, and I'm fine with it being terrible if I saw the difference makers. Right? Like, I think we felt like, you watch Dean Wade, who's 6'9", and You see him move, you're like, okay, that guy moves.
Yeah, you watch the three guys, you said that's a real core there.
We saw that.
Right.
Like, that wasn't a surprise that those three guys interview. I only see the one guy. You like Gordon. I'll have to spend more time with Gordon.
Well, he's showing some signs lately. That's what I'm saying. Because that's what I was waiting. I was waiting for somebody else to start doing something.
Well, my problem is that here's where my frustration would be with Gene Taylor is like, the next recruiting class is showing nothing. Now, that doesn't mean that he isn't saying, listen, I got a line on a couple of guys that are going to be pretty good, and they haven't committed. They're going to commit. We're going to be fine. Okay? I mean, there's potentially information I don't have. However, the information I do have is that help is not on the way next year. And he is seemingly someone that either no one wants to transfer to and play, or he's not going to go get them. And I'm sorry, that's how the game is played. That's the business you're in. You don't get to just turn your back and say, I'm not interested. Like social media, like a business that has to get its name out there. It can't be like, I'm not into social media. Okay, well, then you're dead.
Right.
Okay, because this is where the world has gone. Somebody's like, television programs, we're just doing radio. I'm not screwing around with that new technology. Okay, you're out of business. I mean, like, this is television, right? The transfer portal is television. You've got to get one. You've got to be a part of where the game is going.
Yeah, these teams are
and he
basically
seems to not be a part of it.
Yeah, and the point is, it's also not something just for the upper level. Teams routinely now in the Power 5 conferences get very good players from mid-major schools where the guy led the conference in scoring or led his team in scoring. You got to go grab some guys like that. I mean, but maybe he, like you say, he better, but he strikes me as somebody who philosophically maybe doesn't like to do that and wants to have guys in his program for a few years and coach them up. But it's just not the reality of the world.
I just you don't get to just say I'm shutting off one of the talent resources. I mean,
totally agree.
There's nothing in your resume that says you can recruit it. All right, Kansas. Did they finish second in the Big 12? As we're
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they don't. That they lose a couple games and don't, but they will still have a representative season. Their offense is struggling so badly. I can't imagine winning a couple tough road games here.
Yeah,
but maybe they can surprise me.
They got to find a point guard. I mean,
yes,
a guy that can really handle the show. I think that's what they're really lacking this year. Danny, we lack nothing when you're with us. Always great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it. Danny, check out Danny's website, DannyClingscale.com. My friend, we will talk to you next Friday.
Sounds good.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.